So after the tariffs, I have no idea. Like, my whole life is kind of like in limbo here, because I'm reading all of this, the tea leaves and everything else, and some people are still in like the denial phase of, well, if they really go through with it. And I was like, oh no, they're going through with it. Brace yourself. Then I'm sitting here listening or reading about how if you got some big purchases to make them now. Because everything's about to get a lot more expensive. Okay, so that, I keep thinking those are sprinklers, but I guess it's drainage. Anyway, I gotta get out of this mode. Remember where everything is. Anyway, I got a lot of big purchases to make in the next few weeks here. For you guys. Husky chill. Oh, there's no stop sign on the other side of that. Just realized that. I was wondering that news article was done just to spur people to go out there. and stimulate the economy one last time before things go sour. Cars are about to cost $10,000 to $20,000 more. Go out there and buy a new car. The house you've always wanted, pull the trigger on it. Elective surgery, get it done. But also save enough money for you. I'm like, big large purchases. But also save up, you know, about 6 to 12 months of income. I was like, okay. What everyone's saying is universal though, is that it's gonna be a real shit. Like you thought it was bad for if you were poor, you thought things were bad before. Things are gonna be even worse for you after all of this. And what's the truth? I've always said it before when it's about being poor. When you're under, like I said, the fish underwater don't know there's a storm up above. It's my little cliche, and that's really what it is to be poor in America. Is you're always underwater. So when someone tells you to batten down the hatches, there's a major storm coming, you're always under the storm. They didn't clean it out. One day, I guess at this point it's going to be 1 year. We're going to get a particularly wet month. Okay, well, here we go again. I don't even remember what was there. No, I do remember what was there. That was the house with the guy with the... He had some kind of plumbing company. He sold. To, and he had the wild onions growing. He and I struck up an interesting conversation. It was post-election clarity. Like I said, the news media has to be talking about you need to slit your wrists. All hope is lost. It's all coming to an end. And then you just gotta walk through it. The pandemic was like that. Oh my God, everything's going horrible, and it's just here. It was some people didn't drive as much. Some real morons got together and had parties when other people were doing what was asked of them. I guess I equate it to like in astrophysics. I'm sitting here watching about, they're talking about the collision of galaxies. Someday the Milky Way galaxy is going to merge with the Andromeda galaxy. They're going to collide into each other. The stars are going to sit there and clump up, and the black holes will start to merge. And I'm like, what's going to change? And I was like, oh, for us down here, not really much. And that's kind of what it feels like. Catastrophic things happen, but down here, you don't feel much. course there'd be some asshole coming by. Of course. It's blowing nice. It's flowing real nice. Look at that. Get your kids out here with a few paper boats and you clog up the waterways. Yeah, at the time you didn't think about that kind of stuff. You're just like, hey, we're gonna put some it's flowing real nice here, and then it hits here and it gets stagnant, and it's all because of that collapsing wall there. It hits that, loses momentum, and then just kind of, some of that's probably seeping into that. That might be the source of everybody's problem flooding and everything, is that the water's penetrating that ground there and just kind of soaking wherever it can. Well, yeah, this neighborhood has a lot of drainage problems. It might not be the city of Dallas as far as, like, they think some of the guys on the next door think it's the pumping station. It may not be the pumping station. It may be simply that the drainage here is just awful. Your neighbor starts watering his lawn, and the next thing you know, it reciprocates down to where you're at. And soil's already heavily saturated. That's my professional engineering conclusion. Because the people watering their lawns, this thing might be always saturated. Now maybe the pumping station doesn't help. Every day it's moving large volumes of water through this area. And so the ground's already heavily saturated from all the poor drainage and lawn care sprinkler systems. It's not the cause, but it's part of the problem. Like, the truck's just sitting there and there's this big pool of water underneath it. The water has nowhere to go. Yeah, I think this is, like I said, I think it's more of a poor design thing than it is Electra Honda. I was researching one of those. The problem is, as reliable as Hondas are, they've been notorious for having electrical problems. There's no perfect company. There's ones that do pretty good. Like to live over here. Look at that, water always pools. More drainage problems. Always fucking assholes coming down here. Oh yeah. Oh, this is bad. See, it's stopped up. This ain't draining right. Where is this located? Rockdale. Okay. All right. Report that one. Oh, 3603. Rockdale or Park? Looks like Rockdale. 3603 Rockdale. Storm drain, clogged or damaged. Hey. Always when a good song comes on, right? That's how the curse works. Alright, gonna start over again. No, I just really dig Cabinet Man. I thought this was an actual 80s song, and it's like, no, it's it sounds like it. Like when Billy Joel fooled a bunch of people in for the longest time. There's nothing but mud here now. Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Windows are super dark. Somebody shut out that sign. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's a 357. They shot it that way. One more time. Star Fox just happened to kick in. So I never listened to the lyrics of Cabinet Man, so it's about the era of arcades dying after the home console came out. How a guy, he loved cabinet video games so much he became one, and he became popular, and he was at the peak of his powers. And then he was eventually tossed aside and left in a warehouse somewhere, or in an abandoned arcade somewhere, and then the kids came by and started vandalizing and destroying his cabinet, and accidentally found out that there was something living inside. What's the name of the group? Lemon Demon. You know, the thing about Crown Hill is they're always burying somebody. And I keep forgetting that we're in a gray society, so funeral services are always going to be busy. Your grandma, your uncle, your father, your mother, those forgotten people that had nobody, got to put them somewhere. In other words, all the Eleanor Rigby's. But do they bury Eleanor Rigby's? You wonder about that. Or do they just cremate them and nobody comes to claim the body, so then eventually it just sits on a shelf somewhere? I was reading a story about that, how the social services are so overwhelmed with people not claiming the remains of their loved ones. People who just, they vanished. Nobody knew who they were, where they were. They take what few pieces of information they can and just constantly call people and say, come claim your loved ones. But then you got the case of Detroit where the people couldn't afford to bury their loved ones, and the city said, look, just claim them, we'll pay for their burials. The morgues were overwhelmed. I smell rosemary here too. I gotta see if I check Reddit and everything else. Does anyone smell rosemary after a rainstorm? There's a lot of people out here suddenly.